It can currently be heard on all 3 volumes of the acclaimed Sondheim Unplugged. Please welcome to the stage, Marquee Five.
Rolling on me. Water keep rolling on me. Keep rolling, black water keep rolling. Water keep rolling. Keep on rolling, black water. Keep on rolling, black water. I like to hear some funky Dixieland. Pretty mama gonna take me by the hand. Oh, by the hand, take me by the hand. Pretty mama, I'll dance with your daddy all night long. I'd like to hear some funky Dixieland. Pretty mama gonna take me by the hand. Or whistling down the river. Come on, deliver to me. Will it be? Yes, it will. Maybe just by holding still, it'll be there. Come on, something, come on in. Don't be shy, meet a guy, pull up a chair. It started out like a song. We started quiet and slow with no surprise. And then one morning I woke to realize it could have kept on growing instead of just kept on. On an ordinary
Ladies and gentlemen, Marquee Five. How lucky are we?
I love them. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Who or what are you celebrating today? For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. My show is Richard Skipper Celebrates, and it's about celebrating life, art, whatever we can find to celebrate in these crazy times that we're living in. And yes, they are crazy. But the unifying force that keeps us all together is music. I don't care who you are, where you've been, where you're going, when you come together as a collective group of people to listen to music, we all celebrate together. Carol Channing once said that in order for a show to succeed, you need people from all walks of life sitting together in the dark and listening to this music. I love all 5 of these artists individually, but together they create alchemy. Now, none of them know who I'm going to bring on first, so I hope they're all ready. I hope they're all camera ready and ready to go. I asked Frances to pick a number 1 through 5, and she's the deciding factor. And the last to show up is the first to come on, and that's Vanessa. Hello, Vanessa.
Hello.
Hello, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here. This is fun. I don't have sparkles like you.
Oh, please. You have an inner sparkle. So I have to create these sparkles, but you've got it going on. So I always begin my shows by asking my guests, who or what are you celebrating today? Besides the obvious, you're coming together as a group, you're going to be performing. We're going to talk about that again in a few moments. But what did you celebrate today?
You know, I was just teaching young singers, and there was a lot to celebrate because there were people having breakthroughs left, right, and center, and it's so fun to be a part of that. So I had at least 3 moments today where we had those like, woohoo, you got it. It's that thing. And that's my favorite part of the job.
Now, one of the fun things that I like to do with my show is I lay out for tonight, I've got 5 mystery questions, 1 through 5, and you pick a number 1 through 5, and that will decide the direction that you and I are going to go in right now.
2, please.
And it's actually, I like this. What's the most surprising self-realization that you've had as an artist?
The surprising self-realization. I think that after all of the training and the trying to shoehorn into one thing or another, it's that what I have to offer is enough. And I think that Marquee Five is actually the perfect manifestation of the things that I'm best at and love most to do as a performer. And so after doing musical theater for many years, which sometimes worked and sometimes didn't, this just fits like a glove. And so the self-realization is it doesn't have to be anything other than exactly what I love.
You know, it's very interesting that you say that. Last night, I was in East Hampton. I saw Steve Gutenberg, who has a show called The Gutenberg Bible. Everybody go see this. And it's about the trajectory of his career. If you know anything about his work, for 20 years, he was the hottest actor in Hollywood. And then all of a sudden, the calls stopped. The calls stopped because the regime changed, the business changed. He was no longer the hot commodity. And it was just a completely different game for him. So it's about the work. It's about the process. It's about what you love doing. You teach small kids. I want to ask, who was the teacher that made an impact on you as a young girl that made you say, this is the path that I truly want to follow?
That would be Mrs. Barbara Jo Brennan at Everett Middle School. She was the choir teacher, and that was our home. We choir kids. That was where we spent our lunch periods. And she singled a few of us out to not only have some solo opportunities, but those of us who were in piano lessons, she had us accompany the choir on a few songs. And that's been huge for me because I have to accompany my students. I also teach piano. And at 12, 13, to have been trusted with that responsibility was huge. And I learned so much from it. And she was just gentle and nurturing and kindled that little flame of this is something that maybe I'm really good at.
What was the moment in your life when you decided that you were actually going to pursue this as a career? And I would like to know, what was the response from your family? Are anyone else in your family in the business?
My family of origin, no. My current family, yes. So, okay, twofold question. Really, it was a moment in college where I found myself at a crossroads. There was a teacher who was not supportive of me, and I had auditioned for something, and I'm trying to politically be careful about what I share here, but I had auditioned for something and was not cast, and I went to follow up with him. This is a college professor, and I went to follow up, and I said, please, I'd love any feedback to know what was what. And he said, you just give a pastel performance. And this is a teacher whose job it was to bring the best out of us. And what I had been auditioning for was a class where he could have done that. And he just was so dismissive and didn't want anything to do with me. And I had to sit in that moment and think, is this an indicator that maybe I'm not meant to go down this path? Maybe it's just something I thought I was good at, but not enough. Or do I say politely, put a finger up to him and go and find my own way? And that was what I chose. That was my junior year in college. I went and I got headshots, and I ended up going to my first professional audition for a cruise ship, and I booked it. And then I went and did that for a year instead of what would have been my senior year of college. And then when I came back to finish school, I knew who I was, and I wasn't as vulnerable to the sort of toxic influences that can sometimes be out there.
And there are a lot of them. So we're going to bring on our next guest. You're going to help me bring on the next guest. But before we do, because we're going to be talking about a lot of this later on in the show, your favorite 8-track tape.
Truth, I've never had an 8-track tape ever in my whole life. I had records and I had cassette tapes, and I didn't even know what one looked like before we created this show 13 years ago. So I can fib and say,
Well, let me ask you this: do you remember the first album that you got that you actually purchased with your own money?
Yes, and I'm gonna say it in public. It was Salt and Pepper.
Oh!
And it was 2 singles. So one side was Push It, and the other side I think was Tramp, maybe, but I bought it for Push It.
Okay, you're going to bring on our next guest. So pick a number 1 through 4.
I think 3.
And he's not really listening. So what would you want to say about working with Mick Bleyer?
Oh, Mick has the biggest heart. Mick always has something loving to say. He is just delightful in every way, and he's adorable and handsome. Look at him.
I'm not listening. Oh, I'm blushing.
And he gives the best hugs too. Like, you just
I'll take
know
that.
that you're safe with Mick 100% of the time.
Well, that's great. Well, Mick, welcome to the show. Just as we start with Vanessa, what did you celebrate today?
Ooh, surviving today. Sometimes it's the little things. It was a long day, and knowing that we had this call, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a moment, and I'm going to be grateful that I got through, and that I have energy, and the fact that we're coming to meet up with this particular group of humans. It's the more time we spend together, the easier it is to be ourselves and to be our authentic selves and who we are in that moment, no matter where we're coming from or energies that we're bringing in. We can just allow that within the group, and it's wonderful.
I love that.
Yeah.
Your mystery question, 1 through 4.
1.
And this is an interesting one. When you die, which will not be for a long time, God willing, what do you want to be remembered for when it comes to your art?
Oh. When it comes to my art, that I was a giving scene partner.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
Same thing with Vanessa. Who was the person who made the biggest impact on you when you started out that really encouraged you to follow your dreams, to go into?
Well, I think the person who instigated it was the middle school drama teacher, Miss Janet Edelman. She, I believe she retired last year or sometime during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reached out to, and I wrote a very lengthy thing, because if it wasn't for her and showing interest in me, I probably wouldn't have gotten so involved at such a young age, because I started doing shows when I was 12. And that support, and again, similar to Vanessa, having someone see that in you and help nurture that. So she was the earliest influence. I've been very lucky to have a lot of incredible teachers in my life, but she was the first one.
Now, Vanessa, also, I'm all about celebrating. So I want to celebrate these, but I also celebrate the naysayers, because the naysayers really put us on our path that say, you know, screw you, I'm going to go for it. And Vanessa just gave us a perfect example. Was there a particular person who did not get you or did not see you in this business that made you work harder to go after your dreams and goals? And what got you through that process?
You know what? I've been working 22 years now. And I've had a number of them. And I don't know if that says something about me or just people that are attracted to this business, but I would say that each one was a moment where I had similar reality check,
Mm-hmm.
but also that one person's opinion is not everyone's opinion. It has taken me a long time to fully embrace some of that sentiment, but I remember as a young person, it was more of a like middle finger energy, like Vanessa said.
I love
No,
that.
no, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to ask you, and I love the way that we went with this question instead of going for the 8-track tape. What was the first album that you bought with your own money?
I will tell you, 8-tracks are a close thing to me because my dad still had his working 8-track until last year when they sold their house.
Wow.
Yeah, he furnished a lot of our table dressings for our first show with the old 8-tracks that he didn't want.
Ah!
But my first album, I don't remember my first tape. I stole a lot of my sister's, but I do not remember my first CD. Original Broadway cast of Into the Woods.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you're a lot younger than I am. I'll tell you, my first 8-track tape was The Carpenters' Close to You.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so it goes way back. So, Mick, you're going to bring on our next guest. And so door number 1, door number 2, door number 3.
3.
And what can you tell us? And this is one of my favorite people on the planet. But what can you tell us about working with Julie Reyburn?
Ooh, so I first heard Julie sing in a class at BMI music theater writing class that I was just a participant in as a singer. And she was singing a song by Mark Janis. And I just remember thinking, who is this creature? Who is this earth goddess? Who is this storyteller? And like, who is this person who's so simply yet so cleanly getting to the heart and having everyone weep in this class? Who is this person? And then through the magic of all that we are, we had a bunch of connections with Julie and her joining us. I have learned so much watching her as an artist. And I'm so grateful for that.
You and me both. I remember exactly the same experience. And I think everybody has that experience, Julie. Everybody sits in the audience and they say this in a loving way. Who is this? If you ever watch the Andy Griffith Show, those who do watch the Andy Griffith Show will get this. Ernest T. Bass calls someone a creature. So I'm going to call you a creature. That's my nickname.
I love it.
Yes, so you're my favorite creature. So Julie, who or what did you celebrate today?
I celebrated my daughter Layla. Yesterday we paid her first tuition payment for school, and it's just, and so today I'm celebrating her because I just look at her and I'm like, you're doing it. It's yeah. So it was, and my brother's here and my niece. So family, it's just kind of cool. They're all on the couch right now watching a movie. I'm in my son's room with his Godzilla poster.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's what I'm
hard to believe, because I remember the day she was June 10th. Isn't her birthday June 10th?
Yeah, Judy Garland and Mark Janis's birthday.
Mark Janis as well. Thank you. So your mystery question, Julie, 1 through 3.
I'll take 3.
And your question is, this is actually a statement, and you can go with it. And the statement is, I'm comfortable expressing my uncomfortable emotions. And because I want to keep it about the art, are you comfortable about expressing your uncomfortable emotions in this business?
Yes, on stage, definitely. I think that's our job. It's our job to go there. And I think it's the safe space. What's challenging is off stage, expressing our uncomfortable, living in our uncomfortable emotions, because we're all of us here have our own stuff that we're dealing with, and we sometimes have to live in that. And I think you bring it to your art, right? It's whatever's going on inside you, you have an outlet. That's why we're so lucky to do what we do, is we have a creative outlet to channel that. And so our job is to channel it and to put it out there so we can tell those stories, right? It's a fine line, because it can't be a therapy session, right?
but we can still use it to motivate and move through it. So yeah, that's my answer to that.
Now you were born into an artistic household, so
Yes.
you grew up with that. Was it your parents who really instilled in you to follow your heart, your desires, your dreams, or was there a particular teacher outside of the family circle that did that?
Yeah, I would say it was a teacher, because with my family, it was just everyday life. You know, we were on the road, we were touring, I was on stage with them. It was just a part of me being with my parents. And I loved it because I was with them. I got to travel with them and be with them. So it was just, this is what we did. It was my middle school music teacher, Patty Anderson, who basically gave me, I mean, 6th grade. And she's like, Julie, I want you to sing Send in the Clowns. I'm like, really? How old am I? And I'm singing Send in the Clowns. But she knew I could do it. And she would push me, you know, and she, you know, always gave me opportunity to challenge myself. And she said, out of everybody that I'm teaching, Julie, you do it. I want you to do it. And I remember the band director too. They looked at me after one of the shows and he said, if you do not do this, I'm going to kill you. I'm like, okay, I'll do this. So it was, I was very fortunate to have them.
Now, I want to thank Vanessa, who has given me a new term this evening, and it's called the middle finger energy.
I love that.
Who was the person who gave you the middle finger energy that propelled you to say, I'm going to prove you wrong, that made you just work harder at what you do?
You know, there was a couple of them. You know, I think one of them was a woman that I was doing theater on Cape Cod. I had graduated college. I was really trying to decide if I wanted to move to New York. And the theater I was at was a woman that was doing, I think she was doing scene design, and she had just gotten back from New York. And so I asked her advice. And she, I think, had a really hard time in New York, but she was so negative and basically was like, you're never going to make it. It's too hard. It's this, it's that. It's just horrible. And you'll probably, and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, And I moved anyways. I sold my car. I broke up with my boyfriend. I quit my job. I put everything I owned into the back of my dad's, you know, pickup. And he drove me down and dropped me off in Midtown in March 7th, 1996. And I've been here ever since. I think the second person was, in 1998, a producer who just thought I wasn't thin enough. And I was at my thinnest. But he was like, no, he saw me in this thing. He wanted me to do this, this, and that. And I was just like, yeah, great. And I just kind of like cut ties and moved on. I was like, I am not working with someone who thinks that I'm not thin enough. It's crazy. Yeah.
And the first album that you bought with your own music, with your own money?
So I'm going to say Captain and Tennille's Coming from the Rain.
Yes.
And then after that, I think the second one was AC/DC Back in Black. So I had a really like wide variety of music.
And you were singing Sin and the Clowns.
Exactly.
That's great. So you're going to bring on our next guest. So one or two?
I'm going to pick one.
Okay. So what can you tell us about working with Adam West Hemming?
Oh, Adam is amazing. He has this musical mind that blows me away. The fact that he can arrange the way he does for singers, right? Teach it and sing it at the same time. And has this vision in his head of what he wants it to sound like. And he is able to communicate that to us in a way that's so loving and direct and to the point that you just do it. And he is such a generous and kind soul. And he's so patient when we're trying to learn his amazing arrangements. And he's just a wonderful person. And I am just, just like everybody in this group,
love it.
Adam is he's the core. Without him, we're not Marquee Five.
Oh, thanks, Julie.
Mm.
Well, Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Richard.
If you were not here tonight, we would have no show.
Well, I wouldn't be writing the arrangements for the show, for sure.
Adam, I want to ask you, who or what did you celebrate today?
I celebrated Rico, is what I celebrated today.
Yeah.
And have you heard the latest before you all went live tonight?
Well, how recent? Like the last 15 minutes or the last
hour?
40?
Within the last hour.
What's the latest, Richard? What's the
Well,
newest?
they've got footage now of they have actual footage of them trying to overturn the government.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really something, isn't it?
Is it a video?
It's a video, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So after tonight's show, everybody turn on MSNBC because they were, it's there. And I saw that just before we went live tonight. Roger Stone, of course, is at the core of that. But that's another show. We're not going to go
For
there.
sure. Sorry I even brought it up, but you asked the question.
No, but I am so
actually giving
glad.
it there.
I am so glad you said that because I'm celebrating the same thing.
Yeah.
So there are 2 questions left. So your mystery question, 1 or 2.
Well, it's always number one.
Number 1, and it is, I love this. Get something off. Well, maybe we've just done this. Get something off your chest in a loving way. But I'm going to stick with the arts. Get something off your chest in a loving way about where we are in the arts in today's world.
Yeah, it's Sondheim wrote a lot about art and industry, and the thing about art is from your soul, and the thing that matters the most about art is sharing our souls and connecting, and I think that's probably the most missing thing in almost all aspects of art today, and music specifically.
Absolutely. And who was the teacher with you who put you on the path to your career?
I mean, there are so many, but the one that really I think is probably the most the one that really helped me decide, not that there was ever a decision, to go into studio work, which I did for the first probably half of my adult life, was Gene Merlino, he was a singer with LA Voices. They did almost all of the commercials and jingles in LA from the 50s to just about the 80s, like the beginning of the 80s. And he was possibly the worst vocal coach I've ever had. But he was an amazing sight singer. And he used to say, okay, so sing an A 440. And he would just tell you to do that. And I had to just do it. And I didn't have perfect pitch, but I kind of developed it for a long time because I knew how to do that. He had not a great voice, but he could sing in the exact middle of every tone. He could sing a quarter tone sharp, a quarter tone flat at any time. And he, did so much work. And he kind of, I would say, put me into that world. So I'm very grateful for Gene Merlino. Also, he lived on Mulholland Drive and was probably a billionaire. It was incredible what he did through his time. Pretty cool guy.
And who was the one with the middle finger energy that put you, really on the path?
Yeah, I don't attribute that to a person. I think it's probably inside myself more than any other person. You know how you get yourself moving forward and believing in yourself, and then you just have that little saboteur, as RuPaul says, the inner saboteur. And I think that nobody else. I've never given anyone else that much power over me, but boy, do I give it to that inner saboteur an awful lot.
Good for you. Good for you for acknowledging that, because very few people will acknowledge that. And the first album that you bought with your own money.
Richard, it's funny. I grew up in a house where my parents were born agains, and they were really born again. Like it was from 0 to 100, and so we didn't have any non-religious or Christian or any secular music in our house, except the exact 8-track that you mentioned. It was Carpenter's Close to You, was still stuck on our 8-track player, and they couldn't get it out. So
that's hilarious.
And it played on a loop.
I actually knew about. Yeah, it was always there. You could push the button and get to another track in there. But the one that I probably I was trying to think of the first one I bought. It was probably Amy Grant. She had an album called Giggle, which was really ridiculous, and that's the first one I actually purchased for myself, and that was a cassette.
Well, Adam, I'm going to ask you a question that I haven't asked anyone tonight, and that question is, how did the name Marquee Five come to be?
We were barely emailing yet. We definitely were not texting too much yet, and we were all trying to think of, what do we want to be? What are we? And I don't remember any of the steps other than the last thing that we came up with was Marquee Five. But I'll bet if you asked Vanessa that question, she would know every single step.
Yeah.
Vanessa, you want to tell us?
Well, I don't need to give you all the steps, I don't think, but no, it's fun because people know who he is. I credit Justin Squiggs Robertson because I put on Facebook what are, because we're all actors. And so I asked people for suggestions. I described what we do, and there was all different ones. And I think Justin gave us Marquee Lights, maybe. And then that turned into Marquee Five. But I always think of Squiggs when I think about our name.
Squiggs, if you're watching, I'd love to have you on the show sometime. I think he's a genius. So, of course, if anyone's paying attention, it's the Marquee Five, but somebody is missing.
Where is she?
That's right.
So, Adam, do you want to introduce our next guest, and what can you tell us about her?
Well, a lot of people call her Sierra Rein, but she is actually Sierra Rein.
The Rein and Spine. That's how I remember.
That's a good way to remember it. Sierra is our alto, and who has the highest voice of anybody I've ever met.
Yep.
She is one who is one of the best musical mimics I've ever known. She can really, her voice is just like it's insane what she can do. And she always tells us how she doesn't read music, and yet she reads music like crazy. She just has such an innate ability to connect and to blend, to also belt, to screlt, to all of the things that you need someone to do. And I love her very much. And she brings the Oakland into Marquee Five for sure.
And she's also a great puppeteer.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first time, Sierra, I saw you on stage, you were a puppet.
I was I with my puppet Kay?
No, you were doing a Shakespearean play with. Was it with
right.
James?
It was for Theater 1010, and it was a production of Ruddigore, Gilbert and Sullivan's Ruddigore, and myself and another lady played the entire female ensemble, but it was set in a mental institution for some reason. Like, it was mental institution people doing Ruddigore, and so I had a puppet as the third chorus member. And so she was lip syncing while I was singing. And so we were like a trio. It was very interesting. Yeah.
Great. So I want to begin by asking, who or what did you celebrate today?
I played slight hooky from my work in order to put myself on a self-tape for a role. So I was very kind of happy that I balanced the work, life, art, just kind of shoehorning it in. And my husband is always my reader, and I'm always celebrating the fact that he is able to jump in at a moment's notice and help me. So that was like, yes, I did it. I got it done.
I love that. And through the process of elimination, there's one question left. And it says, what's something that you have learned about yourself in the last 3 months when it comes to your art?
Wow. I actually came to the realization, just looking at all the, because there's new shows, new productions, new casting things. I came to the discovery that I don't have to do everything. As much as Adam said, I'm a mimic and I can do all these vocal things, but as an actor and as like a personality or as like a core individual, I don't have to stretch myself to try to fit some ideal role or whatever. I can just be like, you know what, this is what I do. Take me or leave me. And I know exactly what I'm right for. That's for sure. But yeah.
When you get to that point in this business, everybody who's watching tonight, that's the goal. I truly believe. And again, enjoy the process. So who was the teacher or person who put you on the right path?
I was mentally going through all like my Rolodex of teachers, because I could do like middle school and high school and college and things like that. And like, as I was growing up, all the shows that I did, I was still kind of like, even though I was in the in the theater presentations at Bishop O'Dowd High School, and then I went to UCLA for theater,
I still was kind of like, this is fun. I'm play pretending. I'm just having joyful things. It wasn't necessarily a serious, this is a career with a capital C. But then I started taking voice lessons with Calvin Remsburg, who Vanessa knows. And he, you know, I came in with like what I used to do in high school, which is like Mama Rose and The Witch and Into the Woods and things like that. And he started, you know, working on me, and he looked at me and he went, Sierra, you are a dramatic soprano. And I was like, what? What's that? And he's the one that really stretched me into places in my voice that I didn't know existed in myself. So in terms of like really the work that has to go into discovering yourself and working on yourself, Calvin is I mean, he's kind of a legend in Los Angeles for everyone, and in Broadway and tours and stuff like that. So I felt very privileged to even know him. So that was great.
Oh, that's great. And he was privileged to know you. So the middle finger energy, who was that person?
I'm going to mimic Julie a little bit. There was a producer, and he's very, very nice. But he looked at me, and this is in Los Angeles a long time ago. And he looked at me and he said, Sierra, you would be such a great leading lady if you just lost weight. Oh. And I was like, you know, and I just went, and that kind of made me go, do I really want to be a leading lady? Let me see. Like, or do I want to play Ursula or Emma Goldman or, you know, Miss Shingle in Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, or any of like the amazing actress, you know, roles that get to do this balls out number and get all the applause and then, you know, go have a martini, you know, at backstage, you know, it's like, and then now it's like, that sounds like fun. So I kind of like, he kind of like slapped me in the face, but then I was like, oh, maybe I just don't need to be a leading lady. Yeah.
Wow. And good for you for knowing that. And the first album that you bought with your own money?
I think it was Huey Lewis and the News 4.
Yeah. Wow. That's not surprising.
No, these people know me.
Wow.
Yeah, that was oh, my Huey. Oh, I love him so much.
So 8-track Throwback, the remix. Any of you can who came up with the title?
I think it was my husband.
Oh, wow.
I think he came up with the idea of 8-track, and then maybe someone threw in Throwback or something like that.
There was a long back and forth.
Yeah.
And we had to Google and see if it existed.
Yeah.
8-track
That's right.
flashback, 8-track. We went through a few different things for the original, and then the remix was just recent.
Yeah.
And and anyone can answer these questions that I'm asking now, but did you set on a specific time frame? I mean, let's face it, 8-track tapes were from a specific time frame.
Originally, it was 60s and 70s is what we were shooting for. Now we've extended a tiny bit. We're touching the 80s, but just barely.
Yeah,
great.
I have marketing. There we go.
World
marketing.
And you, where were you as a group when COVID hit? And how did this affect you both positively and negatively? Because I look at the yin and yang of everything.
Right. Well, I would say we obviously, as the world paused, we had to pause, and we lost our mezzo very quickly because she moved away, and Julia had taken some time away from the group a couple years ago, but we had been approached by Phil Jeffrey Bond to do some tracks for his Sondheim recording, and we were like, okay, who do we get of our swings and our former members? Like, how do we move forward with this great opportunity to record these tunes? And all of us said, can we just ask Julie? Maybe she would want to come back. just to record because she knows some of them, and I'm so grateful that we all had to pause for a lot of ways. I mean, if we're trying to find the silver linings, but in terms of Marquee Five, I'm really grateful that we are getting to explore this with the original quintet.
I love that.
Yeah.
Julie, coming back to the group after, how long has it been since you left the group?
So I left in 2014, and then during COVID, they were awesome. They'd be like, "Hey, we're on Zoom. We're doing like visits, and come." And I'm like, I really miss these guys, you know. So like, I went to go see their shows. I helped them get ready for.
You directed one too.
Yeah, and just as much as I could. I was knee deep in parenting and full-time job, and it was just a lot. And I came back to the Zoom, and it was just hilarious, and I was laughing, and it was like I never left. And then when they asked, it was like, well, yeah, I'll do it. And then when we were in the middle of it, I was like, I came to Adam and I'm like, do you think it'd be okay if I came back to the group?
Meanwhile,
it's the best question
rest
of the
of
last
us,
10 years.
the rest of us were like, do you think we could ask Julie if she'd like to come back permanently? Those were happening.
I felt, I'm like, here I leave. Do they really want me back? Are they gonna? But it felt like the timing was right, and in my life, and I needed the family, the community. I missed them, and it was just when we were rehearsing and getting ready for that, I was like, oh, this is like, boom, we're right back in it. We're in the recording studio. It was like, boom, and you don't get that every day. It's like a gift. So.
Well, I was going to ask you if it felt like putting on a very comfortable shoe again, or if anything is different for you this time around.
I think we've all matured with our voices, with our art. We've chilled out a lot. We are comfortable in our own skins, and
some of us are newly medicated.
So for me coming into it, it was like, we're all just settling in at the same time. And it's great because it's like a perfect opportunity for us now. It's like, we're ready for each other. You know, we're ready. We're ready for it.
I'd love to interject with that. Oh, sorry, Sierra. But
we're all
in 5 places, so that's the nature of that. But one thing, I think a really good example of how we've grown, Richard, is that anytime we would debut a song, like we go to, whichever event, but often at Sondheim, the first time we would do a song, there were all these issues with it. Like we would forget to listen to each other. People didn't understand where the melody is. People didn't understand their place of the 5 and in each moment of the song. And when you were playing the opening banner songs, you had Good Thing Going there from the Sondheim show. And that was the first time we've ever performed that in front of anybody. And it was one of the better performances we've ever had of any song. And it's really wonderful how time, all of the experience, the much more life that we all have. 2 of the ladies have their kids are almost on their way out at this point versus just barely coming in when we got together. All of that. It really, I think that every one of us excels as in our solo career life, but every one of us excels even more in working together. And we've all grown so much and grown together. Really, it's been pretty wonderful.
I describe it as when you do a show and you fall in love with the cast and then the show ends and everybody disperses and you never have that group together again. We have our cast for every show. We don't have to say goodbye to this family. We get to keep them.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you say this family. September 15th, I know where I'm going to be. I cannot wait. And we'll talk about, I want to talk a little bit about process. I read a lot of books about not only spirituality, but creativity and bringing them together. So these questions that I put together are based on my readings this morning, believe it or not. And I'm going to start with you, Vanessa. And the question is, what is the one action that you've taken today that moves the needle more than 100 other actions that you took yesterday?
Artistically?
Yes.
Breathing.
Wow.
Paying attention to breathing I've been taking a lot of classes about breath and really using it not just for how it serves my voice as a singer or an actor, but how it keeps me present. And that the inhale is taking in information and the exhale is expressing information. And when I feel nervous, like waiting to come on and do a live thing, I can check in and use that breath.
That's wonderful. Mick, who are the 3 top influencers that you actually follow in this business?
Oh, you're talking to a guy who doesn't do much social media.
Well, 3 people in the business who have made an impact that you really admire. Let's go that way.
Okay. Oh God. Ellen Marie Marsh for speaking her mind and not like allowing herself to be herself, and there's such honesty in what she gives to the world, both in her comedy and her like straight to the camera stuff. That's somebody I really respect. My dear friend LaDonna Burns. She's living. She's living such a beautiful in such a beautiful chapter of her career, and like she's working all the time, and and there it's coming from such a place of joy, and someone that's inspiring me to be as authentically myself as possible because I've known her forever, and to be cheesy, this group. No, I do think, as dumb and stupid as that is, I'm grateful to be inspired and motivated, not just as a performer, but as an artist, and then as the artist who has a life outside of the art. These 4 people inspire that a lot in me.
So, Julie, how many years ago was it that Marquee Five was formed?
2009.
Wow. So what are ways that you spend your time more wisely today than you did in 2009?
Energy is finite. And so I really know when I am at my best and when I need to rest and when I need to say no.
Oh, okay. Adam,
Yes.
what can you do today to improve whatever you're doing in this business at least 10%? Or what did you do today that you feel moved the needle 10%?
What I'd like to say that I actually did today is I have a tendency to procrastinate. I don't know if anybody can relate to that at all. I love writing these shows, and I love getting together and rehearsing for these shows. But sometimes I forget that I have to learn these shows as well. And a thing that I did today is I went and I wrote down every lyric of every song in order, so I could start to remember to connect it into who I am as I continue to memorize. So that definitely is at least 10% better than yesterday.
That's good. Sierra,
Yes.
You are a creator. What does your creativity give to you?
My creativity gives me energy. I will be like stuck, either like bored on the subway or something like that, and I'll have no energy, and then someone will send me a song that they think I would sound awesome in, and I listen to it and I'm like, yeah, I want to sing this song, and suddenly my mind goes and I can stay up until 3 o'clock, like learning a song or watching an old MGM musical and being like, yes, I love the storytelling, or if I get a call back and suddenly the sides are in front of me and I'm like, oh, I get to create this person in front of someone else for the first time. That gives me energy. That'll keep me up at night, for better, for worse, for the next day.
You and I are in the same boat. I know that.
Yeah.
Vanessa, how did your involvement with this group come about?
We now own a caroling company that 4 of us, everyone but Julie, sang with in 2008. 2008.
Six.
It's actually how I met Adam in 2005. Sierra and I went to college together. It's how I met Mick in 2008. And so the four of us were caroling on a gig, and you mix and match a lot of different singers. And this particular quartet came together for an event, and we all just sort of, some magical synergy was happening. And we knew it right. I think we knew it right away. Mm-hmm. And so we looked for what could we do outside of carols, as much fun as that is. And that's actually how Marquee Five was born. And then I had recently done a nymph show with Julie, which that incarnation was called War Brides. And so when the rest of us started looking for musical theater pieces in harmony, we ended up looking at a lot of World Goes Round, the Kander and Ebb review. And we needed a third woman to do that. And I said, I know exactly who I would love to approach. And she said yes, which was wonderful. So that's how we all, it was really just born organically.
I love that. Mick, how would you describe your process with working with Marquee Five?
Oh, it's shifted. But because it really has shifted, especially in this show. I think because of the pandemic and us all having different perspectives, my process now is concentrated osmosis. I have to really have this focused energy, and I can't really rehearse more than like an hour or so, just because I can't absorb after that. But if I really focus in that hour, I can absorb a lot. Well, when I'm on my own.
Wow. Julie, what is the most important action that you feel that you've taken when it comes to your art?
Healing myself, looking within and recognizing that I'm enough and that my authentic self is what I need to bring to my art, and knowing that I'm okay. So yeah, a lot of healing work. And I think it brings another level to the art and the work and, process. You come from a different place when you're not reacting and you're being more proactive.
Adam, how are you feeling really in today's world?
I mean, is it even real? That's how I feel. Is this actually even, is this the planet we're actually on? And are we going to be here for the next 40, 50 years or whatever our lives are? I mean, is it even real? That's how I feel. I
have to tell you that. Yeah, I was in the theater last night and I hear this man sitting behind me. This was in Sag Harbor, having a conversation with another man. And I could not believe what I was hearing coming out of his mouth. And I just turned around and I looked at his wife and I said, is this for real?
Yeah. I really relate to that, Richard. I will say I had a little experience yesterday. It's small doses of change that make us amazing. I was really fortunate to go in Central Park. There was National Geographic was sponsoring this new film. It's The Space Race, and it's about African American, well, actually Black and brown people who were astronauts. And the first one, of course, was actually a cosmonaut, and he was Cuban. And so they kind of beat us to the punch on that. But it gave me a little inspiration that, not all of humanity is going in the wrong direction. We can actually look and we can find our history and trace our roots and be thrilled and happy with what's going on in the world and moving toward better things. And so there's joy on the earth, but you asked the wrong person that question, because I'm constantly thinking of what is wrong with this
right person that question. I know I did. Sierra, what is holding you back, if anything, currently?
Oh my goodness, what is holding me back? I think jealousy. is holding me back a little bit right now, and I'm seeing and it's like as busy I am and like self-producing and doing other stuff, I see other actors bouncing from like their third show in this year and things like that, and that's just like but I will say that it is nice when I come into a rehearsal with 4 other beings and we make amazing music in rehearsal and we're about to share it with other people. And I know that there's probably some people who are looking at me and going, wow, she gets to sing with 4 other people and create these amazing things. I wish I could do that. And I feel lucky in that sense because you know, the grass can always be greener in one area of your life, but when the grass is so green in this very specific part of your life, like Marquee Five is to me, it's just you are grateful for that. That's for sure.
I feel compelled to interject on that.
What?
Because if anybody on earth is not a jealous person, it's Sierra Rein. I've never known anyone other than possibly Mick who finds the good and joy in other people and in their performances. It is really a wonderful quality that Sierra has. So she might feel jealous in her heart, but she definitely does not exhibit that at all.
Well, I want to tell you, I love all of you so much, and I am so thrilled that you all said
this was so wonderful. I want to get all of those questions so I can ask those questions of myself every day. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Those are great questions.
You can see my bookshelves. No, I begin every day with my morning pages, Julia Cameron. I do that every single morning, and I pull 3 books off the shelf, and I do a passage from each one, and I form these questions out of what I read in the morning. And I do that every single morning. But I want to thank you all for being here tonight. September 15th, I am going to be at the Laurie Beechman Theater. I cannot wait to celebrate all of you. At 7 p.m. On another level. I'm going to give each of you a chance to have your final word today. It could be about anything that we spoke about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final message that you would like to leave everyone with today. When I finish my final message, I will leave the screen, I will turn it over to someone, and then you will turn it over, and so on, until the last person is standing. And the last person, when you say goodbye, the credits will roll. So don't worry about how do I end this show. So I'll take care of that. But I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. You can see one of my favorite words, one of my favorite things in this business is collaboration. I learned very early on, because I had great teachers as well, in my community theater in Conway, South Carolina, that when you're standing on stage alone, you're not standing on stage alone. There are the people in the wings, there are the people on the lights, there are the people at the box office, there are the people in the audience. It's a collaboration. And this is what I really see 10 times over. Collaboration. And we see it in your answers and your responses and everything that came together tonight. If we all work together, it will be the world that Adam and I are both looking for. So everyone, let's just think about that. I end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list. I know that everyone here is on Facebook. The third name that pops up, reach out with a phone call. I want you all to do the same thing. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call. And let that person know how they've made a difference in your life. And by doing so, what you will do is you will truly make a difference in their life. And that's what it's all about. We all want validation in this world, whether it be in the arts or whether it be in everyday life. And when we take the time to do so, it's a different world. I have a dear friend, Sean Moniger, and Sean said, we're all in the same boat, but we're in different, we're all in the same storm, but we're in different size boats. And I always say, I don't care what size boat you're on, as long as you have a skipper by your side. And I'm going to leave the screen and I'm turning it over to you. And when you finish, you will decide who will follow you. Thank you all. And please join me on September 15th, 7 p.m. at the Laurie Beechman Theater for Marquee Five. Julie, it's all yours.
Oh, great. Well, I'm just going to say my daily intention is go slow to go fast. Remember, it's the details, it's the daily steps, it's the change that you make in your life that make all the difference. Small changes, big results. Adam.
That's pretty amazing, Julie. I will have to say as well, I'm right on that same page. But what's in my heart right now is that just don't get tired of doing good things. And people are more important than things, and you are more important than I am. So thank you, and have a wonderful night.
Who's next?
Oh, Sierra.
Oh, okay. I have to get blocking done, so I'm going to be the business person, and I will do the blocking this week. I just want to let everyone know who's watching. We're going to have blocking, and I sorry, I just put a little business in there. It's always a joy to work with you guys, and yeah, that's where my mind is going straight to. Mick, you're up.
Here's to living authentically, breathing authentically, and here's to collaboration, community, and family. Vanessa.
I think the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And we have something to learn from every single individual and something to offer every single individual. So we can all work together, figure out what your part is. Bye, everybody.